Welcome back. The insurance industry came under scrutiny last fall when the government rescued AIG, which at that time was the largest insurer in the world. Now lawmakers are thinking about what role the federal government should play in the industry as a whole. Joining us now with more on how the recession in this economy has impacted the world of insurance is Bob-Sheridan, CEO of SBLI. Bob, welcome.
Great to be here, Paul.
It's the big question that impacts all industries, as we talked in the prior segment. What has been the impact of this down economy, A, from an insurance perspective, but then B, from your business in particular?
The life insurance industry in general, and SBLI in particular, we took some lumps last year because of being a fully invested company, and we were in the stock market, and we took some impairments and write-downs and equities, but I'm pleased to say that we have bounced back a lot of capital in the same way in overall in the life insurance industry. But I think it does underscore the need to reassess what is the regulatory framework, and an issue that's definitely in play is an optional federal charter, Paul. And
now, SBLI is a state-chartered insurance business.
We're domestic. We're domestic, meaning that we're domiciled here in Massachusetts, yep. And we've been in the process of expanding nationwide, Paul. But what that means, you have to literally go knock at every division of insurance across the country.
Not an easy way to go.
No, and in some cases it's somewhat dysfunctional and counterproductive. And not only do you have to get a license approved, you have to get your actual product approved. And the system is somewhat like a confederation of the various state regulators. During this last crisis, I think it underscored there's a weakness in the life insurance industry that you do not have a place at the federal table. And I believe you do need a place at the federal table, and I think you need one-stop shopping.
And so that translates into be a nationally chartered bank or life insurance company as opposed to state-chartered.
Yes, and I think it's important that you keep it totally optional, yep. and that has been embedded in the banking industry for a long time, Paul, that you could get a national charter or a state charter. I think it has worked. But I, for one, would be a person to be advocating. I think you need that option. Then you can weigh the advantages and the disadvantages. What's better for your policyholders? What might be better for the your constituencies in the community?
One of the questions I wanted to ask, a state-chartered bank, SBLI is older than the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. I didn't think anybody was older than the Chamber of Commerce. But talk for a moment about the founding of SBLI and the role that former U.S. Justice Brandeis played before he was on the bench.
It's a fascinating story, Paul. It's in our DNA that Justice Brandeis came out with this somewhat, at the time it was deemed to be a radical approach to deliver safe, low-cost life insurance directly to people of low and moderate economic means, particularly immigrants. So he conceived of this idea, went to the Mass Legislature, your former background and playground, I should say, and in 1907 the legislation was passed, and it encountered a lot of opposition from the life insurance industry, and actually a lot of opposition from the savings bank industry, because at that time a lot of conservative people would be yep. involved with the savings banks. But it flourished for a long time, and in 1999 there was a legislative change that converted SBLI into a company, and that allowed us to expand geographically and also to expand whatever we were doing on our product.
So you're in an expansion mode. I love the history with Judge Brandeis, but you're in an expansion mode. You're state chartered. You have to go state to state. What are the obstacles, A, of doing that, state to state, and B, talk for a moment about doing business in Massachusetts?
The obstacles are very apparent. It's time and money. Yep. In a business, you have to be very nimble and agile, and you want to get to market. So you have to do your filing. There's the black letter law requirements. In some cases, you might run into, we don't care what the law says or regulation. This is how you have to do it. So it takes an awful long time. During the past 3 or 4 years, we've gone from having most of our business in Massachusetts, Paul, to now we're 35% in Massachusetts and the rest across the country.
So really diversified.
We have. It's been laborious, and I do think if you had one-stop shopping, it would have been more efficient.
Right.
I think it would have been more responsive to the market.
Massachusetts, our home state. You've had experience in a variety of roles. How is it to do business here in Massachusetts?
We love Massachusetts. This is where we grew up. This is our home. It will continue to be our home. In our case, we have a good relationship with the Mass Legislature and with the Division of Insurance. At the end of 2007, the Division of Insurance was very responsive to allowing us to come up with a financing, innovative financing device that really helped the business. But that's Massachusetts.
Right.
To have to go to all these different states.
And to go through that entire process, time and money, it's expensive.
You have to run this gauntlet, and New York, you don't represent New York or California.
No, not that I know of.
But you have New York and California. I think they have an outsized influence on whatever happens.
Interesting.
So,
we're hometowners. And we talked previously with Pat about advertising. I've noticed in some of the SBLI advertising the use of sports, particularly the Teddy Bruschi ad, which is a powerful story. Why the sports motif, if you will, in advertising?
Well, number one, it hits to our demographics, our prime demographics with respect to the buying group that we're going after.
I take it I'm not in that prime demographic.
You're in a very special class, Paul. And with Teddy Bruschi, that was something that came together, and we were very fortunate, and we enjoy a very good relationship with Teddy Bruschi. But what a compelling story and the need for life insurance. So we love Teddy Bruschi for what he does on the field, but I think he's even more impressive at what he did off the field in dealing with a life and death situation. He did recover. But he's a very compelling messenger for SBLI. In
just a few seconds we have left, Bob, you also play a role outside of SBLI as chair of the UMass Building Authority. In a word, what are the challenges that the university faces from a building and maintenance point of view?
Money. It comes out to money. UMass is a wonderful system. The building authorities, there's a capital plan, I think, of $2.4 billion. Half of that will come through the building authority. Money's tight, and so when the capital markets have been somewhat hostile, but we're not going to be deterred. We may be delayed, but we plan to really change the landscape in the face of the UMass system. It's going to be some great things for the parents and students who go to the various UMass campuses. It's
a great university. It's important to all of us. Congratulations for taking additional time to do that job, and congratulations for leading a great company. Bob-Sheridan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.